Hi everyone, welcome back to Heart and Chops. Today we're making pretzels, a very easy, fun baking project that uses minimal ingredients. We just need to get one thing out of the way first. There is one sketchy thing about making pretzels, and that is that they are dipped in a 3% lye solution. The baseness of the lye speeds up the Maillard reaction on the surface of the pretzels as they bake, which produces the trademark pretzel flavor. If you've ever seen Fight Club, you'll remember the scene where Brad Pitt kisses Edward Norton's hand and then dusts it with lye.
What is this? This is chemical burn.
The resulting reaction creates a painful chemical burn, which is later neutralized with acid in the form of vinegar. Today, we will not be making soap out of liposuctioned human fat, but we could do that with this stuff if we wanted to. Instead, we're going to use our trusty kitchen scale to make a 3% lye solution with water, and wearing gloves and eye protection because this stuff can burn you if you act a fool and splash it in your face. Dip the pretzels into the solution before baking them. If the idea of wearing gloves and face protection scares you, well, sweet summer child, maybe you should go back to 2019. Or if, say, you're fresh out of lye crystals, just look it up on Google how to use baking soda instead, because that's definitely a thing and I won't tell anyone you post out. For the dough, you will need 632 grams of flour. I used unbleached all-purpose flour, but you could also use cake flour. 12 grams of salt, 13 grams of instant yeast, 365 grams of water at 95 Fahrenheit, and 21 grams of butter. Add the yeast to the warm water and stir to dissolve. Yeast can clump up and be stubborn about dissolving, so I'm sorry I don't have great advice here, as I usually find this part of pain. You can use the back of a spoon to crush any lumps of dry yeast you find at the top of the water, but this often leads to the yeast sticking to the spoon, which you then have to scrape off, so if you know a better way, leave a comment below. Measure out your flour, add the salt, and whisk. Now, let's combine the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. Add the yeast and water mixture, which should be somewhat foamy by now, to the flour and salt, and mix until a shaggy dough forms. Turn out the dough and knead it until it comes together into a smooth, cohesive ball. Add the butter and knead the dough again. Be persistent here and have the courage of your convictions. It might take a little while to work the fat into the dough. When the butter's incorporated and the dough again comes together into a smooth, cohesive ball, set it aside in a clean bowl and rest for 15 minutes. After the 15-minute rest, the dough will feel slightly puffier and softer. Cut it into 8 equal pieces. Pre-shape the pieces into little oblong log shapes and then let them rest for another 5 minutes or so on a baking sheet lined with oiled parchment paper. Don't overanalyze too much about the shapes at this stage or you might overwork the dough. After the 5-minute rest, they're ready to be shaped. Take a log and roll it along the countertop. I find it's helpful, once you get it going, to start in the middle and then radiate the rolling outward. Once the dough is long enough, make a loop, twist the ends around one more time, and then bend the ends over and up around the top of the loop, tucking the ends in underneath. Here it is again. Make a loop, twist the ends, tuck around. Cool. After shaping them, place them in batches of 4 on 2 baking sheets lined with greased parchment paper. Cover with a damp towel or some plastic wrap and let them rise for 30 minutes before placing them in the fridge for an additional hour or up to overnight. Okay guys, gather your courage. It's time to do the lye dip. First, heat up your oven to 425. Don your PPE. If this was like any other time, I probably would have gone out and acquired some food-grade tight latex gloves or something, but I'm not going out for non-essentials right now, so I'm using these heavy-duty rubber gloves, which I have thoroughly washed with soap and water, and they're gonna look awkward on camera, whatever. Set up a greased rack with a drip tray and 2 more baking sheets lined with greased parchment. Using a kitchen scale, measure out 1,000 grams of water and then add in 30 grams of lye crystals. Look at them, they're strangely beautiful. Mix to dissolve. Now, get your pretzels out of the fridge and, still using gloves, as awkwardly as you can, lift the pretzel off the baking sheet, dunk each pretzel into the solution, waiting 10 seconds per side before flipping. This is why you're wearing eye protection, because it might splash. Then remove them to the drip tray to drain. Dunk the whole batch of 4 and transfer them to the drip tray, then transfer them back one last time to the 2 baking sheets lined with greased parchment. Use gloves the whole time. Be mindful of where you're dripping, follow the directions on the packaging, etc., etc. Rinse the gloves with water before putting them away or on the countertop or whatever. Just like be smart. Figure out, don't drop lye everywhere. God. Sprinkle them with anything you like. I went for some fancy Maldon salt, but you could use some black lava salt. Also, you could use cinnamon sugar or some chili flakes and sesame seeds if you want to get wild. Bake them at 425 until they turn a rich, nutty brown color, which should take about 15 minutes. These are best hot right out of the oven. Best overall the day of. Just okay the next day reheated, and absolute garbage on day 3. So don't feel bad about just eating them all right away. You'll need your strength for the coming days, my comrades.